Hi, I'm Tyler, your Christian personal trainer, and this video is going to be basically my testimony. I realize that on this channel I'm always giving tips and tricks and advice on how to lose weight and grow faith, but I really haven't shared my story and how I got to here, this channel, and doing everything that I do here. So I thought I would roll back and share with you kind of my story and my testimony. So growing up, I basically there was two things that were always consistent in my life. We went to church on Sunday, and dessert was always after dinner. Like, we never missed dessert. I have quite the sweet tooth because of it. But in that, vacation Bible school every summer, church every Sunday, going to youth group during the week, I grew up in the church. My parents even helped build a church. So yeah, I've been a part of every type of church, from startup to your community church to your big mega churches. I've kind of grown up through all aspects of that. So with that said, I became a Christian at a very early age. It was after vacation Bible school. They gave you that cool little comic book, flip book. It was probably, I'm trying to see if there was anything around me that I could show, but I mean, it couldn't have been much bigger than my hand. My hand even then, type of a thing. Really, those small ones. Kind of walked you through the concept of accepting God into your life. And I remember just praying, I believe it was with my mom, after vacation Bible school one day, and that was that. In my mind, it was vacation Bible school always described it as accepting Jesus into your heart. And it's just funny because after I accepted Jesus into my heart, I was good, happy. But like the next day or a couple hours afterwards, I really kind of thought about it, and I was like, how do I have this person in my heart? I overthought the process, which actually tends to happen a lot with me now in life, is I just overthink everything. But in that, I was thinking about Jesus actually in my heart. How am I going to feed him? How am I going to get him water? I know I was at most 7 at the time. It's kind of embarrassing to share that, but that was my logic. I've moved past that. I know it's not a physical person in my heart. It's metaphorical. That's not even a word. You know what I'm trying to say. With that said, started going to church. We did that all the time. Then junior high. So growing up in the church, there is this thing called Awana. Awana is basically Boy Scouts, but at a church. And girls can come too. I don't remember if Awana is the boys and if the girls had a different name, but I just remember it was Awana, and I'm pretty sure boys and girls were together, type of thing. We're talking 2nd to 6th grade. I think I did Awana. And I was good at Awana. I know that sounds weird, but Awana was broken down into, you would do little races and activity, basically just stuff to get the energy out. You would recite Bible verses, then there would be a kind of a sermon type of a thing, usually an arts and crafts somewhere mixed into that. But I was the guy you wanted on your Awana squad. I could memorize verses like no one's business, to the point where I knocked out basically 3 years of Bible verse memorizing, and like every year you get a book kind of a thing. I knocked out 3 years of it so much that they literally created an award for me. I should try and find it. I think it's called like the Sparky of the Year award or something like that. I'm looking over there because that's where my closet is, but I think it could be in there. But yeah, I could memorize verses like nobody's business. But in that, I hated Awana for one reason: the uniform. Hated the uniform. Picture your very generic button-down shirt, very much. It's kind of like if the skippers on the Jungle Cruise, so picture that safari look, met the Boy Scouts / military thing. So you have that real safari tan button-down shirt, but you then would have, across your chest this bar, and for every chapter of your Bible study book, you would get a pin and certain things. So I was fulled out. I mean, I had everything. When most people had like a bar or two, I was like on 5 type of a thing. So I was loaded up here. But the thing I hated most about the uniform, and I should have loved the uniform because of how much metal, it was actually just shiny plastic, but how much I had going on here, is you had to tuck in the shirt. And being a chunkier kid, I just felt like a sausage, and it was awful. I hated tucking in my shirt with a passion. So much that I would often get in trouble for not tucking it in. And it had to have been 5th grade, 6th grade at the latest. I would get in trouble so much that one day my leader, an adult, a dad of a kid in the group, basically told my whole squad that if I didn't tuck in my shirt, we were all going to go to the bathroom and give me a swirly. After that moment, I was done. Awana was no more for me. I basically cried my eyes out, called my mom. She picked me up, and she was doing the best to calm me down in the situation, but she then made a giant bowl of Rice Krispie treats, and I sat there and ate all of them. That is my first memory of emotional eating, which just started basically from there and rolled through the rest of my life. We moved in junior high up to Northern California, and throughout all of this, I did swim. Summers were a big thing for me, and so I would swim, and I was good at it. I didn't look like a swimmer because I was a little bit chunkier than all the other kids, but in that I had the strength, so I could hold my own in swimming. So once I moved up to Northern California, if you're a big kid and you can swim, there's really only one thing you can do, and that's water polo. So freshman year of high school, I go out for the water polo team, and I make the team. Not only do I make the team, I make the varsity team. So I am new to the area, and all I'm doing, because water polo is the first season of the school year, so the first quarter, I'm just hanging out with a bunch of older kids, a bunch of seniors, a bunch of juniors. And basically, for the next 2.5 years or so, I just got made fun of by my water polo team by how fat I was. And even though I could hold my own, I was the young guy, I was the punching bag, I just got made fun of. So I became very self-conscious about my weight. Thus, emotional eating, the whole circle. I'm sure you have had the same experiences. Through all this, I was going to church still all the time, but it was roughly my junior year when I really found a church youth group that made sense, really spoke to me, really made me feel connected. And even though at a younger age I became a Christian, asked God into my life, it really wasn't until my junior year, I believe the summer going into my junior year, that my faith made sense. That I really considered myself a believer in Christ. It was always just something you did prior to that. It became more of an entity in my life. And I know it sounds cliche, but literally from that moment to a very traumatic event that I'm going to talk about 4 years. This 4 years was really a lot of good happened in my life. Made some amazing friends. I lost a lot of weight. High school wasn't as hard for me. A lot of good things happened, and I can only equate that to my relationship with God, and how impactful my high school youth group really was to my life. I go to junior college, a local junior college after graduating from high school, and majority of my friends went to the same junior college as well. Things were going well, and I decided to go, after I did my 2 years, I was going to transfer to Cal State Northridge. The summer before I was to leave for college, my best friend had an accident. The youth group I had been a part of for so long did a missions trip to Belize. I did not go on this trip. I basically had a job, so I didn't get the time off type of a thing. I wanted to go. I fought to go. Just things didn't work out. I couldn't go to this trip. On this Belize trip, everybody goes swimming in a lake. My best friend has a diving accident. It's still questionable of what happened. And long story short, he is paralyzed from roughly the chest down with not the fullest range of motion of his hands and arms. This killed me. And I haven't talked about this really out loud, only to a few people. So I'm going to try and work my way through this. This was the point in my life where I couldn't wrap my head around God anymore. I vividly remember, and in honesty still have, I consider them nightmares, probably once or twice a year about this, where my buddy was in the hospital and he's going surgery after surgery, and they decide to pump him with a bunch of medicine to try and activate his nerves. Well, in doing so, it did activate the nerves, but it also activated the nerves that he had control of, or like he could feel. And so I just remember and this was when he was in a room that only 2 people could be in. I remember his girlfriend at the time, who he later married, so that's a blessing, and me in the room, and I am literally holding his head onto his pillow because he is just thrashing around and spitting and saying the most weird and awful things. And his girlfriend is singing to God. And I'm just like, how can this happen that such an amazing guy can have this accident while on a missions trip, and this is what's happening? And I just remember leaving the room when like his brother came in to kind of switch out. And I just remember seeing the pastor of our church, my parents, his parents, all lined up on a wall. And they all were just like talking, like nothing was going on. I didn't say a word to any of them. I just booked it down the hallway to a room. I remember punching a wall in this hospital. And it literally was from that moment that I didn't care anymore. That I mean, some people can look back at their life and realize certain points in their journey. And it was that night I was so angry at God that I just basically said, screw this, I'm done. Which was odd timing because literally less than a month later, I moved to Southern California, Cal State Northridge. And I was alone. I knew nobody in this town. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. I started doing school, was doing good, and I realized I should probably pick up a job. And all through high school, because I was a swimmer, the token job you get as a swimmer is a lifeguard. I went to the school campus and tried to become a lifeguard. Long story short, they weren't hiring lifeguards. I asked them what jobs did they have. They needed a boxing coach. I said, sure, I'll do that. I had no idea what boxing was, besides the fact that I knew who Mike Tyson was and I could probably pick him out of a lineup. But that's all I knew. I then spent the next 3 months with the head of boxing, the whole boxing department at this gym on campus, learning how to box. And I loved it. The way I could describe this guy was awesome. Basically picture, if he ever sees this video, he's going to chuckle. Picture Terry Crews. You know who Terry Crews is. Picture Terry Crews, but put it in a little bit taller than Kevin Hart body. This guy could pack a punch. He knew exactly what he was talking about. And he was huge. And I learned from him how to box. Through that was also the time when the UFC was getting huge. Like, I think my first semester at Cal State Northridge was the first season of like The Ultimate Fighter, if you ever watched that. So I was immersed into that culture. In that, I started working at the gym, started making a lot of friends with sorority girls and fraternity guys, started going to those types of parties. So all in a matter of one semester, I found boxing and I found alcohol. So the long story short is I went from a medium large t-shirt to an extra large shirt, basically within 6 months. I think I went into college at about 180 to 190. Being 6'1", that's a pretty good size. I left it about 230, 240, which is not a good size. So in that, I've always looked athletic. I held my weight pretty good just around my midsection. Life happens. I moved back up to Northern California after school and start training people. I was doing a podcast with a buddy of mine. We were doing stuff. Found the woman of my dreams, Danielle, who I married. And that's when 517 Fitness basically started. And I really, to rewind a little bit, when I moved back up here to Northern California, it was about 5 to 6 years where I had given up on God. And it was about a year, about a half a year, 6 months before coming back to Northern California that I started dipping my foot back into my faith. my girlfriend at the time, I would go to church with her and stuff like that. And I basically figured out that there are things in this world that I will never be able to make sense of. And that is okay. Even though it is frustrating and I want to know everything, God has a much bigger plan and knows what he wants from that. So I was kind of dipping my foot back into my faith, moved back up here, started dating my wife, or my now wife, and while sitting in church one day, I basically was bored and was like, what does God have to say about health and nutrition? And like I've said 100 times, it basically, you only have to read less than 30 verses and God starts giving a diet plan out. And that really was the point where I started looking at my faith in a more physical sense and what the Bible tells us to do and how to live our life. Prior in my junior year to right before I left for Southern California, a lot of my faith was up here and here. It wasn't an actual physical thing. I didn't do anything bad per se, but like I didn't take my faith to what I think is that next level and live it, if that makes sense. Started 517 Fitness, and that leads me to this video here. I appreciate you listening to my story, and really by listening to my story, there's one thing that I really hope I can communicate best to. So thank you so much for listening to my story and my testimony. And really the one thing I want to get across to you, and I hope you can really learn from my story and the areas that I have messed up in, is that in everything, focus on God. It was when I took my focus off of God and my faith, that is when the bad things really happened. Yes, bad things are going to happen along the way no matter what. But in those really bad moments, don't focus on the world and take your eyes off of God. I have only had positive outcomes from diving into the Word and looking at God in bad situations. It's in the bad situations where I focused on myself and what I wanted and what I wanted to do, that bad situation just got worse. So with that said, my real prayer is that you'll take this, look at your life, and look at the areas that God has blessed you. I have a great marriage. I have 2 amazing kids. I have the ability to do this. If I would have not focused on God, I really don't think I would have gone to this point. The walk I was doing while I was living in Southern California was gonna lead me to a different path. That is not where I think I was designed to be. So with that, remember, focus on God, not your past. You can look at your past and go, okay, cool, and learn from it. But real success only comes from focusing on the future and that future with God. So with that, I really hope this video has helped you in some way. And with that, God bless, finish strong, and I will see you in the next video.